me. I always forget.
I always
Hello,
forget.
hello, and welcome. Michelle and I are here anchoring in the artist way. What are we on? Week 10?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, let me double check. Where's my notebook here? Week 10,
Mm,
recovering a sense of protection.
mm,
um, I really did not want to do this week. I really did not want to do this week. I didn't want to do anything about this week. And it's funny because she says over and over, don't give up, don't stop. You
mm,
feel like giving up. And I'm like, man, she's taught this so many times.
yeah.
And like there must be like this group think where all of us are just like, yeah, this has been enough. I feel good. I'm done. She's like, don't give up, don't give up. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. I can try. I won't give up. So I have been back at work. I'm feeling a little bit better right now. And the morning pages were the first thing to go out the window. I love them. I
Mm.
love them so much, but it's like oh, I have to get back. I'm sharing this with everybody here. Oh well. I have been really struggling with the morning pages. I haven't done them.
Mm.
I haven't been paying attention to them. I haven't cared about them. And I did maybe like 1 or 2 days. 1 or 2 days, I got some good morning page notes in there. Um, but I did do some of the exercises, and I thought they were really challenging this week because I didn't want to acknowledge a lot of what she was writing. Like, I really think Julia Cameron's genius with this because
Mm.
there's just like she's obviously taught this course over and over and over again. So she knows like don't give up. She knows the things that are out there. But it's like every once in a while I read the things that she says and I'm just like I was like she's in my head. I don't like it. How'd she get in my head? Did you do any morning pages or tasks or artist date or anything?
No, no. I did actually rest today. I took a nap and I kind of felt like an artist day because I put on a really comfortable show that, it was like,
Yeah.
and I cuddled up on the couch with the dogs and it was nice.
I
So that felt good.
The thing that I kind of realized is that like anything I do that gives me that like cozy, safe feeling,
Hmm.
it's self-care. It's an artist
Yeah.
date. It's a way for me to like and alone. That's the thing
Yep.
that I've realized is that before this, I was doing a lot of my like self-care-y stuff with other people, like trying to
Mm.
support them and be there and then kind of like yes and myself into the equation.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the idea of doing something by myself, like this week, my daughter is starting to get into Shakespeare, and I love
Mm.
Shakespeare. And so I sat on the bench and I was teaching her, how to score your script and kind of looking at the different lines and the pentameter and how Shakespeare works. And we were sitting on this bench and it was just beautiful. And I came back the next day by myself with some poetry and like some Shakespeare just to read it for myself. And it was wonderful because I
Mm.
had such a nice, like, cozy moment with her. But I was also in that mom mode and that teaching mode. And I had like an hour or two the next morning after I dropped the kids off at school. So I just went right back to the same bench that we were on, the same park, and I just sat there and I sketched in my notebook a little bit of the trees and then I got her script and I was looking through it and I was just like, "Oh, Bottom, oh, Titania." Like I was just like, "Oh," and I was kind of reading through it and looking at the monologues and realizing how some of them are still in my head and I was kind of excited by that because
Mm.
I haven't read it in so long, and I was like, "Oh, look at me. I still know that, Helena monologue, even though I would never be cast as that now at this age and this height." But my daughter, so it was fun. Like it was one of those little reminders, like this is okay for me to sit by myself because it's usually during I drop the kids off. I have this weird schedule. It's pockets here and pockets there.
Hmm.
I'm always doing things for other people and getting exhausted by it
Mm.
and
Yep.
getting a lot my life is a lot of that like hurry up pick them up and then wait, and then
Mm,
pick them up and then go somewhere else. So it's like my life isn't really moving
right.
along. So I've been trying to like find moments in those pockets that I can honor myself. And that was a perfect example that I was able to take one of those, you know, 45-minute pockets and just sit on a bench and read Midsummer Night's Dream and sketch a little in my notebook, and perfect day, perfect little morning. So it felt
Perfect.
good.
Mm,
So in the artist way, like I said, Julia Cameron has an earworm in our head. She says this week finds us facing the internal blocks to creativity. It may be tempting to abandon ship at this point. Don't. It was tempting. We will explore and acknowledge the emotional difficulties that beset us in the past as we made creative efforts. We will undertake the healing shame of past failures. Ooh. We will gain in compassion as we reparent the frightened artist child who yearns for creative accomplishment. We will learn tools to dismantle emotional blocks and support renewed risk.
mm,
So this week was the tasks were really I did, like I said, I didn't really do a lot of the morning pages, but the tasks were really looking at your fears. And
mm,
she has this thing where she starts off the chapter with the first word is fear. And I've really been, because I've been doing a lot of shadow work and a lot of physical healing and just kind of getting myself back up, fear, I've realized, has come up a lot for me with myself, with my guides, um, and that idea of like fears and resentments, which she talked about over and over this week. And I was like, that's why I wanted to abandon ship. It's because this is the stuff that I struggle with. She talks about being blocked versus lazy.
mm,
And and she's like, artists tend to, go really big. Like if I'm not doing um a film or a one-man show, then I'm lazy. So she's like, start small. So,
mm,
keep going, like it doesn't always have to be this big thing that we do. And then if we don't do it, we failed or we're lazy. So it's just that negative self-talk. And I was
right.
like, I felt so called out. I was like, yep, yep, I do that. And then she said, I loved this. She said, enthusiasm is from the Greek word filled with God. I didn't know that. I love
Huh.
that. And so I'm going to try to remind myself enthusiasm is from the Greek word filled with God. Isn't that a beautiful way
Mm,
to think about it? And she was talking, she said, remember that art is the process. And I was
yes.
like, yes. I was like, and it's the small steps too. She says, in order to work freely on a project, an artist must be free of resistance, which is fear, and resentment, which is anger. And I've been doing a lot of that in my journal, like just kind of talking like about listing my fears and like those negative self-talk thoughts that come up, and then the resentments. And she, in a couple chapters earlier, she talked about jealousy. And I didn't think of myself as a jealous person, but I've been observing the jealousy these last
Mm,
couple weeks, like, how, this or that, or other people, or, and I realized it's because I keep trying, because I'm not doing the stuff that I want to do. I'm blocked.
mm,
And so I'm resenting and being jealous of other people for stepping out and just doing things. And I was like, okay, that's a really good aha moment.
mm,
And she talks about, when you catch a jealousy that she's like, how can you change that immediately? So I've really been trying to, whenever someone has something and that little feeling pops up, I'm like, I just celebrate them. I'm like, yay.
mm,
I take a moment and I'm like, I'm so happy for that person for being able to do this. And, angels help me do it too. Like I've
mhm,
been really trying to catch it in the moment, because I'm jealous of like, even like my husband, he's been like working out and being healthy and doing like 10,000 steps a day. And I was like,
mhm.
and then I was like, wait a second, I need to celebrate him because we're a team, like this is,
Right.
we win together. Um, she has this whole thing called blasting through the blocks. Um, and so in this chapter, she talks about like creative U-turns when you've done something and then you got really afraid and stopped doing it.
Mm.
And just in this process of this artist way, or maybe right beforehand, someone reached out to me to direct a play, and I was really interested in doing it. But then they started talking about how it was like their big play for the season and they have a big budget and it's their money maker. And I was like, and the more she talked, the more afraid I got. I was like, oh, I don't want
Mm.
to take your money maker. I don't know if this is going to make money. This is an avant-garde play. And I was going to direct Rhinoceros by Ionesco, which
Mhm.
is um you know not I was like I don't know if people will like this, and I was like no, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to take your main money maker for the season. I was like, maybe I'll do it, in January or February, just like an experimental piece. And she was like, oh, okay. And then I was thinking
Mm.
about it and I was reading the chapter this week and I was like, man, that was a complete fear. That was it. That was me being like, I'm not worthy enough or good enough to direct a main stage show. And I totally am, but I was afraid. So then I did this workshop in order to work freely in a project. And I did this list any resentments you have in connection with the project. And I was like, well, it's a really busy time of year for my kids, and all those where I use my kids and my family as an excuse, which I do
Mhm.
all the time. So I listed those first, and then I really got into the nitty-gritty of like, I'm afraid to be successful. I'm afraid to fail. Like, what if I
Mm.
get their big money baker and people think it's weird and they don't, and the theater loses money, then it would be my fault, and then they'd never want to work with me again, and then I'd just be a failure, and I'd never even get to do community, like, and it all kind of was like blah, 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 blah,
Mm.
filling out, and it's like I'd kind of told myself, well, I'll just do it in February, but I was putting myself in the back burner.
Mm.
And I was telling myself that I wasn't good enough for it. So I got that all out on the page. I thought about it. Um, and then I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, what show are you doing for the June production?" And she told me, and she was like, "Oh, we just had auditions." She was like, "Do you want to be in it?" And I was like, "I'll audition." So I actually have an audition tomorrow for this
Oh,
play.
nice.
And I was like, I thought, because she talks about how can you fix it. I was like, well,
Mm.
that might be good. Maybe I can, do something there and then still focus on my production of
Mhm.
Rhinoceros in February and kind of be able to yes and it. But it was like it was really timely that I kind of, thought, and you're like, she's like, how can you remedy it? How can you fix it? And I was like, how can I fix that? But then I thought about it and I just sent her a quick message on Facebook. I was like, hey, how have you been? What did you pick for your June show? And the conversation kind of started again. So I thought that was kind
Mm.
of interesting how easy it was in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And um, she says that make your deal. Ask yourself what you stand to gain by not doing the piece of work. And then she says, do better. Make your deal. The deal is okay, creative force. You take care of the quality. I'll take care of the quantity. In other
Mm.
words, like we need to get out of our own way.
Yep.
And then this week, I I've really been going back and kind of thinking about this. And I did read a little bit of my morning pages. They were icky and horrible.
Mhm.
But one of the sentences reminded me of a play that I started writing a couple of years ago. And I realized I hadn't finished it. And again, it was the same kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's another U-turn. I was like, okay. And
Mm.
I pulled it out and I read it. And it's about my family. It's very personal. It's me and my mom. And, it's a very, very personal play. And I was like, oh, this is too personal. I don't know if I can share this. And then I was like, where is that fear coming?
Mm.
So she really has me looking at myself like through a microscope right now. And I'm realizing that I'm super afraid to put myself out there. Like
Mm.
I write the plays and I do all the stuff, but I always undercut myself. And I'm like, I've she's really put me on the spotlight today where I'm like, I really do a lot of creative U-turns. Like
Mm.
I am just nonstop doing them. So, she kind of talks about like taking stock and taking heart and like noticing these, acknowledging these things about yourself, and then kind of visualizing yourself doing better and
Mm.
following your dreams, and what would it take. And she says, prioritize, list for yourself your creative goals for the year. So let's not do that now, but let's all just think about that. Like, so if you were to say your dream in your mind of like exactly what you wanted to do, and then think about creative goals for the year, for the month, and for the week. I think that's a really good way of kind of looking at it and looking at the world, because this week I pulled an old play out. I reached out to a theater company, and I reached out to a film director that I've done a couple of his films for, just to see how he's doing and connect in. And I was like, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like that's a good thing to do for the week. Um, the month and the year projecting forward. Um, we'll see how it goes, but not trying not to be afraid, acknowledging those fears and kind of
Mm.
writing them all out. I liked that dump of like, well, what would be the worst thing if someone read this play? The absolute worst thing. So what am I really afraid of with this? What am I really afraid of with that? And she says, creative U-turns. I'd love to, but you see, I have these crippling fears. And I laughed and I was like, yeah, I can kind of see that. Because I mean, for me, like, I love watching other people succeed, and I love like being the wind beneath their wings. That's what I'm really, really
Mm.
good at. Like, I'm good at seeing what other people have for their artist passion and helping them cultivate it. I've helped so many people do that. That's kind of like my secret whispering gift, right? Like, that's why I kind of call myself an inner artist coach, because I can kind of see what
Mm.
their art is and what they really want to be doing, what their spark is, and then I can help them. I've helped a woman who was a playwright that was afraid to write plays. Now she's written like 5 plays, one of which I've
Mm.
produced, and she's doing really, really well. I helped one woman start a photography studio because I was like, you're really good. Like, what, she took pictures of my family, she used them on our website. Like, I've got all these success stories, and I realize that that's part of my creative block, right? Is that
Mm.
I live vicariously through the people that I coach and that I help. But I have to start doing some of these creative U-turns for myself,
Mm.
and that means looking at these crippling fears that I have of success that I've continued to do over and over. And, just being able to acknowledge it. And that's really what she talks about, is like acknowledging it. So she says creative U-turns. All of us have taken creative U-turns. Name one of yours. Oh, I liked this exercise a lot. Name one of yours. Then name 3 more. Name the one that just kills you. That one I kind of laughed. I was like, it was so easy because I've got so many. Um, and then she says, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the failures of nerve, timing, and initiative. Devise a personalized list of affirmations to help you do better in the future. And then very gently consider whether an aborted, abandoned, or savaged brain children can be rescued. Remember, you're not alone. So this was kind of the task that
Mm.
got me reaching out to the film director and, texting the theater company about their June season, and it was oddly easy to do all of those things. The one that's going to be hard is the play, because it's pretty personal. The one that kills me, of course, is grad school. So, but
Mm.
it was, it was just kind of interesting to see, like, I've got this pattern. Okay.
Mm.
And she says, all of us have creative U-turns. She says, do not take a creative U-turn now. Don't stop in the artist's way. She's like,
Mm.
notice your resistance to the morning pages. And I was like, you see me, Julia Cameron, because I want to quit right now. I was like, you've called me out and I don't want to do it. So I thought that was kind of I thought that was super interesting. Um, let's see. Don't give up. Yeah, morning pages, difficult, stupid, pointless, too obvious, do them anyway. And then she said, what creative dreams are lurching toward possibility? Admit that they frighten you. And then I haven't done this yet, but I'd like to do this, Michelle. I like this for homework.
Okay.
Choose an artist totem. It might be a doll, a stuffed animal, a carved figurine, or a wind up toy. The point is to choose something you immediately feel a protective fondness towards and give your totem a place of honor and then honor it by not beating up your artist child. So, my
Mm,
homework to myself is because I really like that idea is I'm going to try to search this week for something that I want to use for my artist totem. So maybe you can do that too. And then we
yeah,
can
that's a
share
great
it with
idea.
each other.
Okay. I like that.
I like it too. She has a lot of good ideas. And that's it. We're week 11 next week.
Wow.
Recovering a sense of autonomy. So let me read
Mm,
what that one is. So next week we focus on our artistic autonomy. We examine the ongoing ways in which we must nurture and accept ourselves as artists. We explore the behaviors that can strengthen our spiritual base and therefore our creative power. We take a special look at the ways in which success must be handled in order that we do not sabotage our freedom. That sounds good because I feel like
yeah.
I'm really afraid of success.
Mm,
And I'm like, I don't know where that came from or in all the digging, I'm like, I don't get it because I
right.
want it, but it's fear. I know that. Um, but so that they'll take a special look at the ways in which success must be handled in order that we do not sabotage our freedom. So I like that. That sounds like a good week.
Yeah, it does.
And any thoughts on this week or notes or anything like that?
No, I had a really tough week connecting to the work. I did do some journaling, and they weren't first thing in the morning, but I did get some stuff out, which I think was actually really helpful. But I am noting where I am really creatively blocked lately. I
Mm.
have a block in my sacral chakra. I can feel it. And
What
it's
would you say
something
your art form is? Like what? Like
I like doing mixed media painting, abstracts.
okay, okay.
That's or clay. One of the two. Those are usually my two
Oh,
go-tos.
do you remember how a couple weeks ago someone was talking about Play-Doh?
No, I must that one.
So, I think it was Julia. She came on and for her artist date, she was playing with Play-Doh.
Oh,
For
that's
the
brilliant.
for the Easter basket with my kids, I gave them little Play-Doh and eggs that I found.
Uh-huh.
And we sat down the other night and we played with Play-Doh for like an hour. And it
Yeah,
was
stuff's
like
great.
I just kept smelling it. I'm like, it just smells like child. Like it was felt so good.
Yup.
I was like, gosh, I was like, it's so something so simple, like just sitting there and playing with Play-Doh felt really, really good.
So I joined a mixed media challenge for the next like 7 days. So I'm gonna
Mm.
actually really stay on top of that and do that. I'm like, no,
Ooh,
I ordered some new supplies. I'm like, nope. So we're
that's
gonna
awesome.
play with some mixed media stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and like this is my mantra, intention, not perfection. Like,
Yes.
whenever we're, like fears and blocks and resentments and like the inner artist, it's really just showing up for yourselves, like showing up here and being part of this. Like you and I, especially, like we're kind of anchoring this in for the
Hmm.
group. Like I was saying, there's a lot of us that are watching this on the replay, even if we're not here live, which is
Right.
perfectly fine. We've all have that there. So thank you for being here and being that anchor for everybody that's watching it in the replays later on, because just the act of coming together and seeing that other people are we try,
Yeah.
maybe we read I there are a lot of weeks that like I have kind of like cliff notes for the chapters. There's been a couple weeks that I've kind of just done the cliff notes, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so but I try with the morning pages. We try, we've
Yeah.
got life, we've got all this other stuff. We're just doing the best we can, and sometimes what our body needs more than anything is a nap.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
you take the nap. I mean, that's just as simple as that. Your body needs to recuperate, it needs to heal.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. That's self-care. And that takes
Hmm.
the priority of anything else. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, it looks like we are on for next week, same time,
Perfect.
same place. And thank you again for being here. And we'll see you all next week.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.